Hello and welcome to the Blue Water Running Podcast. I'm your host, Maren, and this podcast features and celebrates the achievements of high school and collegiate cross-country and track and field athletes from the Blue Water area of Michigan. You can follow Blue Water Running on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also find our meet and athlete reports and articles and a recently added merchandise shop at www.bluewaterrunning.org. This podcast is a 2-for-1 special. On episode 31 is Andrea Rheaume, who serves as the head women's cross-country and track coach for St. Clair Community College, locally known as SC4. Then on episode 32, Coach Max Whittredge will focus on the men's program. With Andrea and Max at the helm, the skippers have seen incredible success and growth in their program over the last several years. The women's team was first at the highly competitive MSU Spartan Invite and second in their conference, sending 3 individuals to the national meet, and in 2023, they were 11th overall as a team. The men's team placed in the top 10 at the national meet in 2022, making school history. This year, they were second in the junior college division at the Spartan Invitational, second in their conference, and 12th in the nation. Both programs saw school records set in the last 2 seasons, with the men's record set last year at 25:35 by Glen Davis from Port Huron Northern, who was named the Michigan Community College Athletic Association's Men's Cross Country Runner of the Week twice, and also awarded the U.S. Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association's National Athlete Award of the Week, the first athlete from St. Clair County to do so for cross country. The women's cross-country record was set this year by Lily Lemanski from Marlette at 19 minutes 40 seconds. In the spring, SC4 will launch its inaugural season of track and field, giving local athletes the chance to continue their field event or sprint careers as a skipper. Both coaches will give us some insight into the growth and vision of their programs, the benefits of running for a community college team, and what experiences students can expect as an SC4 student athlete in the cross-country or track and field program. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the Blue Water Running Podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here, and I'm honored that you asked me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're doing great things for the Blue Water area for cross country and now track, apparently.
Yeah.
So let's start off by recapping how you came to SC4 as a coach. So if you want to tell us a little bit about your background as a runner, how you got the job there, and kind of your journey to become the coach at SC4.
Sure. Well, I started running actually in middle school. I went to Marine City Middle School. And from there, I ran in high school, and I didn't actually start running cross country until my junior year of high school. I thought I could be a basketball player, but, running was the sport for me. So from high school, I went to the University of Detroit Mercy, where I ran track and cross country for 4 years. And then from there, I ran on 2 club teams, like sub-elite type club teams, Frontline Racing, which I don't know if they're even in existence anymore, that one. And then the other one I ran for was Playmakers for a few years. And then prior to coaching at SC4, I coached at Yale High School as the assistant track coach for 2 years. And then I also coached the 6th grade club team at Yale Middle School when I taught there. And then when I moved to Avoca Elementary for teaching, I taught 4th and 5th grade running club. I'm not sure, maybe 6 or 7 years while I was there. And then I came to SC4. So a little bit of a journey to get there. I didn't even know that coaching at the collegiate level was something that I wanted to do with myself, but it was mentioned to me that the position had opened and that I should apply for it, and so I did. And that was when James Frank was the head coach a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the assistant coach to start with. And then he left and took another position somewhere else. And Craig Dickinson, who used to coach at Port Huron Northern, happened to be back in Michigan at that time. And he took the head coach position, which I was offered the position, but I didn't feel I was ready for it. And so he took that position, and I coached under him for a few years, which I think was a good decision for me, and it helped me out a lot. Just learning some of the ropes and different types of workouts and how to plan training and programs and things like that. So then when he left, that's when I took over after the 2021 season. So.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, can we ask what some of the events were that you enjoyed either in high school or college as far as track goes? I think people are curious when they hear you're a runner too. So it's always fun to find out what you liked to do or what were your events that you competed in.
In college, I was a middle distance. So I did 800 and 1500 mostly. And then I did do the 4x4. So in track, that's what I did. I ran the 3K a couple times, but not usually. That was my transition from cross country into indoor. I'd start with a 3K, and then the rest of the season and for outdoor, I'd run the mile and 800, and then in outdoor in college, it's actually 1500. So
okay,
yeah, and I enjoyed those distances. So.
Do you want to throw a few PRs out there? Because I know you're very fast.
Yeah, I think in the 8 I ran a 2:13, and in the in the mile I ran 4:51, and then the 1500 I ran 4:28, I think.
Okay. And then did you do a 5K or a 6K in cross country?
Both. For regionals we ran 6K, and then
okay.
most of the time we ran 5K except for regionals.
All right. So what's your 5K best?
In college it was 17:55.
Nice. She's got some street cred, folks.
A while ago. Don't know if I can still use those numbers.
Well, not as long ago for you as for me. So, well, as you were wrapping up your season for cross country at SC4, both teams, men's and women's, had a fantastic season. The men's team and then several members of the women's team qualified and ran at the national meet. So tell us what that experience was like and any of your main takeaways from that experience and what you're looking forward to as you're moving into next fall.
Yeah. Well, going to nationals is always fun and exciting. You know, there's schools there from all over the country that we only see at that meet. Not all of them, but a majority of them. And they run Division I, Division II, and Division III all on the same day at the same course, staggered throughout the day. So we're Division II, and so it's fun to see the Division I runners and the Division III runners, and just the level of elite athletes that are there. It's amazing. You wouldn't even think it was a junior college meet. You would think it was, an NCAA type event. So it's just exciting and awesome. I think that, we get to take our runners to an event like that and be competitive in an event like that at a national level. And it's always fun. We usually plan fun things to do while we're there, because a lot of times, like this year, it was in Richmond, Virginia. So on our way down, we drove through Washington, D.C. So we stopped there and did some touristy stuff for a few hours, went and saw the monuments and things like that. So we try to make it a memorable experience as well, and kind of like do some fun stuff over there too. What else?
Are any of your runners coming back? Will they be running for you next fall towards 2025? Yes.
Yep. For the women, we have 3 coming back, Lily Lemanski, Jenna Denver, and Layla Body. And so those are our 3 freshmen this year. So they're all coming, all the freshmen will be coming back for 2025.
Excellent. So you have some experience with some kids next year. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always ebbs and flows at because it's a 2-year turnover rate.
Right.
So if you have a low recruiting year one year, that can make it kind of tough to like make that back up, as opposed to like at a 4-year school. They come and go pretty quickly. So
Yeah, that was one of my questions. As far as recruiting, I know it can be challenging because you aren't going to be able to stay for 4 years. So I was curious to see, and like you said, it's a little bit higher turnover rate. So, well, the big news though, that's hopefully going to get you some more recruits is that SC4 added track and field to their athletic program. So how do your cross country athletes feel about that?
they're excited. I know our freshman girls that are returning, they've already been asking like and saying, "Oh, I know people who want to just do track and this and that." So they're pumped about it, and it's always nice when the athletes go back and talk to friends that they still have in high school because that helps with recruiting as well. Um, but yeah, we're excited, and it should bring in more athletes because if you have some more middle distance, more towards the 400 athletes that don't necessarily do cross country, but they want to do track. We're hoping to tap into those athletes and get them here. So,
hmm do you have any athletes currently running cross country that don't want to run track and just want to stick to running cross country?
no, they typically all do track. The only times they don't do track is maybe if they're a sophomore and they want to be done and
Okay.
they're not moving on to another school to run after SC4. It's kind of an unwritten requirement for them to run indoor and outdoor track to continue to be competitive and on the team for across their second year. Because as you know, with running, if you take months off, you're back to square one.
Yeah,
So
it makes sense that you would
everything
have that
builds
expectation.
and most of the time they all want to run in the winter because they know that they'll get better
Right.
if you run year round. So
Right. Where do you practice? I know there's not a track at SC4, but there's plenty in town. So I'm curious, where do you go to get any track workouts, or if you have to do a field event practice as well, where would you go?
we do use Port Huron High School track. It's pretty much about a mile and a half from the field house, so it's kind of perfect for our warm up and cool down. So we do that. Sometimes we do go to Port Huron Northern's track. Depending, sometimes in the past we've had people want to run the steeple for outdoor, and we don't have steeplechase barriers at SC4 because we don't have a track. We just don't have
Right,
it.
right.
But Craig Dickinson and I forget who else, but they built their own steeplechase barriers that are at Northerns that they have in their shed. So we are able to go there and use those. So the kids can practice jumping over large barriers that don't move.
Yeah,
A
you don't want
lot
to
different
crack
than
a
a
leg into
hurdle.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So,
have you been able to pull in more recruits so far that you may not have otherwise hooked now that you have the leverage of being able to offer track and field?
I haven't heard anything yet. I am working on building a recruit list and getting ready to do some recruiting during track,
Okay.
hoping to snag a few for next year. But yeah, since we announced it in the middle of cross country season, it was kind of hard
Yeah.
to recruit for track while we were busy during cross. But yeah, I'm working on a list and hoping to make it to a few. I don't know if I'll make it to any high school indoor meets, but definitely outdoor meets in the area. I'll be there out and about. So
Yeah. Well, obviously there'll be an immediate opportunity for some school records in track and field, I'm assuming.
yeah.
Um, do you have anyone specific that's already running for you that you think will make contributions in that regard right away?
Yeah, on the women's side, we have Lily Lemanski. She was our top cross country runner this season. So she's looking to run in the mile and the 800. So she should be setting some decent times there. Jenna Denver, she's looking to run more into 3K and 5K. And she'll be setting some good times in that as well. And then we have Olivia in the mile as well. So I already have like from because we used to have a club team is what we did in the past. So I do have like top 10 lists in different events for that. So I just have to, I don't know if I'm gonna like kind of leave those as our club times and start new stats or just add the new track times to our club stat. You know what I mean? I have to determine if I'm gonna make a new list or just add to what I already have.
Right.
But then Layla Bodies, she'll be in the 400, and we only had one other girl running in the 400 last year, Kayla McIntyre. So there's only one time
Yeah.
for those. But yeah, so this year those girls will definitely be, setting some bars for other athletes to meet in the future. So.
And they're doing indoor as well as outdoor. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. Well, SC4 recently added residential dorms, which was a cool addition to the campus. But the majority of students are probably commuting and not living on campus. So how does that work for you when you have to organize and schedule practice for your athletes who are on a variety of different class schedules? Some of them are having longer drive times than other athletes, et cetera. So talk to us about how that works in a daily practice schedule.
So during cross country, we typically have practice at 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. And I found that works well with the athletes. It's even, I'm about a 45-minute drive from campus myself. So I feel like if I can make it there at 7 with 2 kids at a house, then they can make it there at 7. But that way we're done usually sometime a little bit before 10, depending on the day and if we're doing strength training or, what other supplemental stuff we're doing after our run. And they can all get to class by 10. And if they have an earlier class, if they can't get a little bit later class, usually if we're doing strength training or core, different things afterwards, they can get that in later on their own. We're pretty flexible because it is community college, and a lot of, like you said, athletes are still living at home and commuting. Flexibility is kind of key. Because at a 4-year university, everybody's still living on campus, and they don't have the distance to drive. They can walk right from class all the time. They're just always there, and that's not the case at SC4. So we're pretty flexible in that regard. So, but yeah, 7 a.m. and then usually Saturday or Sunday, depending on everybody's schedules, we get our long run in, but we bump that back to 8. They can sleep in an hour.
Well, with so many of your athletes living off campus, what do you do to help build that team culture and that camaraderie when many of them are in separate communities? They come from different cultures in high school, and now if they're not at campus, you have to be very intentional about making that happen. So what do you guys do for that kind of opportunity for your student athletes?
So at the beginning of we start practice in August, which is really early, August 1st. And so usually that first or second week, I've hosted a camp at my house in my backyard, just 2 nights. They tent, and my husband and I cook food. We go out to dinner. We go to the beach. I live up in by Lexington, so we go to the beach and things like that. And then they kind of get to know each other then, especially the freshmen coming in. And we run. I have a couple hilly dirt roads out here. So I do that in the beginning of the season so they get to know each other. And we do a lot of team building and goal setting kind of activities during that as well. We're actually, though, hoping this upcoming fall to host at like a camp or like rent cabins, because this year there was a huge storm that came through, so they couldn't tend to my yard, and I can't host like 20 kids in my house.
Or would you even want to?
Right. So next year we're looking into going to like a campground with cabins and stuff. So if it is raining, we can still do it, and we'll just be inside more. But yeah, we do that, and then usually during the season and during like the winter season, we'll try to get to a volleyball game or basketball games as a team, and support other athletes at the school as well, in the different sports. So
Yeah.
we just kind of plan things like that. The girls will plan team dinners. They do like Spirit Week sometimes at practice. Definitely on Halloween, we dress up and run in our costumes at 7 a.m. in the morning.
That's awesome. I love that. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, some of it's on the team too. The captains planning some stuff. So yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into the next question, which is, what do you think are some of the greatest advantages of attending a community college like SC4 versus a four-year institution?
Yeah, I think from the athlete's perspective, cost would probably be one of the biggest advantages that people look at. It's a lot cheaper. I mean, especially if you're on an athletic scholarship, it's basically debt free. Students can stay at home, so they feel more comfortable, especially if they don't want to move away or something like that, and they can save money. A lot of them still have jobs, maybe the same job that they had in high school and things like that. And so they can stay at home, they're saving money, they can work, take classes all at the same time, still be involved in a sport. Because I know like when I was at school, I only worked 10 hours a week at the library on campus, and while taking classes and competing and training, it's busy. It's a lot. So I'm glad that they can do that here as well. And I think there's more flexibility with like team requirements. Not that we don't have high standards and requirements, but I can be a little more flexible. I feel like maybe than at a four-year university. For example, kids that are on the team that are in the nursing program, that's a very high demand class requirements and loads with clinicals and things like that. And so sometimes they can't be at practice because they have a clinical. So I work around that. They'll run their workout later in the day, and things like that. And then I think some of them might use it as a couple trial years to see if running in college is something they think they can handle before moving on to a four-year school. Because there is a little bit more flexibility, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great option for all of those reasons you mentioned. And I believe recently the state of Michigan approved some or all of tuition free once you graduate for community college. So that's a huge plus.
Yeah. So actually now everybody right now on the team is at school for free, and people, non-athletes as well.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if that'll be, from my understanding, it has to be, now I don't know a lot about it, to be quite honest, but I think it has to be approved again for next year.
Okay.
What I understand.
Well, it's an option. So
yes,
if anyone's interested, they should definitely check into that. Yeah. Well, I was doing a little research for the episode, and I was looking through the website, and I found that SC4 does have an athletic hall of fame, but there are no cross country or obviously track and field athletes yet. So are you hoping to see one inducted, from your time there that could represent the program?
Yeah, I think, the Hall of Fame's kind of, I feel like, I don't know how long you should be out of the school, before like you're inducted or, you're nominated. Because the program's been around, I think, for 8 years now. So it's still, to me, kind of a young program, which is probably why there's nobody from cross country in the Hall of Fame. But I think now that I think we should anticipate some in the future. We've been regularly competing at the national level for cross country and getting closer and closer to having some All-Americans on the team. So I think once we hit some of those big milestones, I think, we have more opportunities to see somebody in the Hall of Fame that way, So I see it coming. We have some fast runners, even that I've recruited for next year too. And with Lily coming back, and with Jenna and Layla, we're going to have a pretty stellar team, I think, next year.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. What are your current school records?
So for cross country, our top we have a top 10, but the school record is 1940,
Okay.
which was this year by Lily
Yes.
Lemanski. And then do you want me to do track stuff too?
I mean, if you have any, sure, why not?
I do have.
If
I
they're
did print
handy,
it
I don't
because
go
it's
out
right
of your
there.
way to look it up.
Nope, it's right here.
All right, she's ready.
So in the 400 is Kayla McIntyre at 1 minute and 3 seconds, 0.8. And then in the 800 is Grace Wessel at 2:27. So that's indoor 800. Indoor mile is also Grace at 5:19. 3K indoor is Mary Kaminsky, 11:23. That's all for indoor. And then for outdoor, we have Kayla McIntyre in the 400 again at 1 minute and 2 seconds, 0.8 as well.
Okay.
Grace in the 800 at 2:22. And then Grace in the 1500 at 4:54. And then Mary in the 5K at 20:27 on the track.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think this year some of those might go. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on healthy. Lily's recovering from an injury right now. So as long as we can get her back healthy, I think she's got a shot at the mile there, and Jenna in maybe the 3K and the 5K on the track. We'll see. And Layla, she hasn't ran the 400 in quite a while, so we'll have to see what she does with that. But if anything, she'll be the second because there's only Kayla.
Right.
So
She'll be on the list for sure.
Yeah.
Well, what is your big picture vision for both your cross country and track and field program moving forward? What are the big items on your wish list, so to speak, that you hope to see in the future?
Yeah, for cross country, the big picture is like consistently first or second in our region. I'd say right now we're consistently in the top, first through fifth the past couple of years, but I'd like to see that shortened up and first or second consistently, and then consistently again at nationals, either in the top 10 or top 5. I think we have athletes in the area that can get us there. It's just a matter of getting them here on the team.
Right.
So it is possible. And then the big vision for track, I think is building up that middle distance and distance events, and then possibly continuing to grow that into maybe sprints in the future. Because with that, with doing sprints and field events comes with more coaches.
Right.
And so that's just a way bigger picture that I think we have to see success first, now that we've added it, and then, move forward from there and see in the next few years how things are panning out.
Yeah. Growing pains.
Yes. Yep. I know. Even the athletes are like, well, are you going to have throwers next year? And so baby steps. We
Yeah.
gotta take steps. We got track. And really what track means right now for the runners on the team is we're doing more meets than we did in the past for club. When we had the club team, we did 2 indoor meets and 2 outdoor meets. And now I think they just approved the schedule. Now I can't remember how many meets we put on it. Maybe 5 indoor and 4 outdoor meets.
Okay.
Something like that. So we've increased our meet schedule, and then the kids can qualify for the national meet, for the junior college national meet, which as a club team we weren't able to, even if they met the standard, because we weren't an official team.
Right.
We couldn't compete at it. So now that's an opportunity for them. That's opened that door.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool because I think indoors is in Texas, and then I forget where outdoor is. Maybe maybe Florida. I don't remember where it's at. But yeah, some other cool places to travel to too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. That's one of the cool places to visit when you're competing or spectating, because it's a lot warmer in Texas than Michigan.
Yes.
So.
Well, yeah. Well, it's indoor too, so I'm a little surprised. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My son runs for Spring Arbor, and their indoor
Yep.
nationals are in Florida, and we're very excited because last year they were in South Dakota, and that was not so exciting. I mean, it was fun to go watch, but like
Right.
weather-wise and scenery-wise, like not
Yeah.
exactly a tourist destination.
Right.
Well, we weren't far enough west for it to be a tourist destination. You could definitely go to the Badlands and things like that, but
Okay.
yeah. Well, what is your, or who is your, I should say, who is your favorite professional runner to follow, if you have one?
I'd have to say Des Linden. I enjoy watching her compete, and even though she's not originally from Michigan, she's in Michigan now.
Hmm.
So I kind of feel like she's like local home athlete here. And I did have the opportunity a while back before she was more famous. Like a friend of a friend, um, met her a few times, had breakfast and stuff. She's a really down to earth, nice person. If you're at a non-running event and she was there, you probably wouldn't know she was a runner because she doesn't boast about herself. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that kind of person.
Hmm.
So she's just nice and funny and cool. And I think she's a, a an ex a good runner, obviously.
Yes.
And I do listen to her and Kara Goucher's podcast.
Yeah,
Nobody
nobody asked us. That's
I do like
excellent.
listening to them.
Yeah,
So
they're funny.
yeah.
Des Linden actually lives about, I'm going to say 10 miles from my cottage up north.
Okay. Yep.
So we've seen her run a couple of times on the road that goes past where we turn into our street. But the first time my husband saw her, he thought it was someone running from something. He didn't realize who it was. And he's like, why is she
Oh,
going so fast? Like he thought
okay.
something was wrong. And then he
Yeah.
realized, oh my gosh, that's Des Linden. So that made sense
Yeah.
why she was running so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah. Yeah. She's one of my faves too. Um, and then where in the world would you love to go for a run if you could travel and take
Ooh,
a run somewhere?
that's a good question. Well, these questions were not.
No, they weren't. Disclaimer, I did
No,
not
no,
send these
that's
to
good
her
though.
prior to the
Um,
interview.
um, let's see, probably out west. I can't pick another continent like Europe or something because I've never been there, so I don't know. So
Hmm.
maybe there too. But I do like it out west. I've had done some little bit of running in the Rockies, which is hard.
Yep.
But I think somewhere out there, the scenery and yeah, out west someplace.
Hmm. Are you currently training for anything yourself? Are you looking forward to a personal goal?
Yes, I am actually in my third week of training for Boston.
Wow.
So yeah, and my goal for that, I know. So the marathon I did to qualify is a lot easier course than
Hmm.
Boston. And I ran 3:12, and my goal was was to run under 3:10. So I missed it barely. And um, so my goal is to break 3:10 again,
Hmm.
or my big A goal is to break 3 hours, but we'll see.
Ooh, that's an awesome
Um,
goal.
I
Yeah,
usually have A, B, and C goals. So
that's good. You got options.
yeah, yeah.
Have
So but
you run Boston before?
I have not. So Boston
Oh,
would be my third marathon
okay.
ever. My
Well,
first one was in 2007, so that kind of doesn't count, I feel like. So I'm a newbie again
well,
in the marathon world.
there is nothing like your first Boston. So I've been twice. I went once when my
Okay.
husband and I did not have children, and then I did it again after I had my third and last child, and both times were incredible. So there's nothing like 26.2 miles of crazy running fans screaming in your face
Yeah.
the entire time. It is awesome.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I have a couple of friends that I know that are going as well. So trying to meet up with them while we're down there and in different things. So,
Hmm.
or over there, I should say.
Yeah, the hills are no joke, I will say. And it's
Yep.
not the uphills, it's the downhills that get you.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because you start off running downhill and it feels awesome at first. And then later you're like, ooh, I think that might have done something.
Okay. See, so I'm doing the Boston Athletic Association training plan, one
Okay.
of them. And you do a lot of downhill speed at your
Hmm.
marathon pace. So that must be why. So.
Yeah, that's my guess. When my husband and I did it, it was 2004, I believe. It was the hottest Boston on record. It was 94 degrees. We didn't start until noon, and they ran out of ice. They ran out of water. So people were spraying us from the sides, because there's homes that are just along the road, spraying us with their hoses, which seemed great at the time. But my socks got really wet, and I had soggy socks for a while, and it ended up kind of crunching up and going under my toenail.
Oh, no.
And then by the time we finished and got done, actually my husband had to walk a bunch. He had plantar fasciitis, but he was trying to run through it. And then it was so hot, and he didn't finish till way behind me. And so we're waiting and waiting, but my toenail ended up falling off because the sock underneath just kind of pushed it up, and I had a big black toenail, and it eventually grew out and fell off. So yeah. Fun times. Marathoning's great, kids. Everybody should do it. No, it is an awesome experience. If you can't ever run it, go and watch it, because it's crazy. It's just so cool. If you're any kind of fan of running, there is nothing in the world like it. And I'm so glad that I got to do it, because it's definitely one of my top 10 memories in life. So yeah, I'll be watching to see how you do. That's awesome.
Thanks. It's funny though, because I never ever once said, "Do you want to run Boston?" I'm like, "No, I don't really like the marathon." I've done quite a few half marathons, and I enjoyed that distance. And then last, maybe a year and a half ago now, somehow my husband says, "Oh, we should go to the Boston Marathon." But I'm the one who's running the marathon to get there.
You're doing all the work.
My husband does run too. He's done ultras. He's never done an actual marathon, I don't think, but he's done like a 50K and a 50 mile.
Oh, well, that's legit.
So my husband somehow talked me into it.
Well, I think you'll be glad he did once you finish. And when
I'm excited now. And I actually enjoyed my marathon training, which I didn't think I would. And so.
Yeah, when you turn that last corner to kind of head down that final stretch, I think it's Boylston Street, you can hear the people screaming before you ever get close. Like, it's just this wave of sound that smacks you, and it gives you goosebumps and chills. Like, oh, yeah. And then the last time I did it was the year that Des took second in that sprint finish.
Okay, yeah.
So I finished, and then my friend who I'd gone and traveled with, she met me at the finish. She's like, "Oh, Des almost won," because she had been waiting at the finish line.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And then sadly the next year after that was the bombing. So yeah, lots of history, lots of cool things to see and do. And Boston's a very cool town to explore. So if you get a chance to do that,
I think we're gonna go do as much as we can.
Yeah.
Without overdoing it, and then afterwards, right?
That's the thing that stinks about traveling for a race. You want to be a tourist, but you're like, "Oh, I can't walk too much.
Right.
I got to run."
Yep.
Yeah, I got to balance it. Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I am so grateful that you took time out of your very busy schedule. You're not just a coach, you're also a mom, and that is a very big job, especially with little kids. So it was really awesome to hear about your vision for SC4 and things that are coming up that are exciting and new, and also the success you've had and want to build on. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
Yeah. Again, honored that, you chose to interview me, and I know you'll be talking with Coach Max here soon too about the guys team. And I appreciate you doing that, and I think it's good press and stuff for us to at SC4. So I know they'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, that's why I exist, to highlight all the great runners in our area and make sure that they are appreciated and they get the due recognition for the amazing accomplishments they have. So
well, thank you.
Once again, thank you so much for tuning into today's Blue Water Running podcast. I can't wait to feature more cross-country and track and field athletes from the Blue Water area, so stay tuned because it just might be you. Coverage on Blue Water Running is sponsored in part by Elite Feet of Port Huron. If you need running shoes, spikes, or apparel, they have a friendly and knowledgeable staff to help you find just the right fit, and they're big fans of running too. They are located at 327 Huron Ave in downtown Port Huron. If you are interested in sponsoring coverage or partnering with Blue Water Running as an advertiser to reach and support local runners, please reach out via the website, show notes, or social media channels. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. You can find the Blue Water Running podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and any other major media player. You can also ask your smart speaker to play the Blue Water Running podcast. If you have an idea for a great topic or guest that you would like to hear about, feel free to contact me through the website links or show notes. You can follow Blue Water Running on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also find me and athlete reports and articles at www.bluewaterrunning.org.